I don't do this very often. I want to give a shout out to somebody real quick. CJ. I got one of the nicest messages earlier today that I've received in a while. I got a message from CJ's mother, and CJ graduated high school last night. Pierce County, I believe it was. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Graduated high school last night. He's been accepted to the University of Georgia. Not only that, he has been filming huddle highlight videos for his high school football team during his time in high school. And he has been given, no, not given, he has earned the opportunity at the University of Georgia to film their practices for the athletic department. So he starts that this summer during summer workouts. I had a chance to talk with him on the phone today. Couldn't have been a nicer kid. I'm sure he's going to do great at the University of Georgia. And obviously his parents did an amazing job raising him up because he decided to go to the University of Georgia. Anyway, shout out to CJ. It was a pleasure to talk to you earlier today, sir, and I wish you nothing but the best at the University of Georgia. Texas A&M finally had the type of season that Texas A&M fans have been waiting on really since Johnny Manziel graduated almost 10 years ago. They went 9-1. They were 8-1 in a shortened regular season. It was a 10-game SEC schedule. They had one game get canceled against Ole Miss. So they went 8-1 in the regular season, 9-1 overall after a win in the Capital One Bowl and New Year's Six Bowl over a pretty good North Carolina team. Their lone loss coming, of course, on the road to Alabama early in the season. Blowout loss, really, what was it, 52-24, something like that. But Alabama blew out almost everybody they played. Not really, there's no shame in losing to Alabama. Texas A&M fans tried to make a case for them getting into the playoffs at the end of the year, and there was a case to be made. I personally don't think they should have gotten in. Not only did they not win their division, they got blown out by the team that did. If the game would have been a little closer, maybe they would have had a better shot at getting in. Plus, you had some other teams, I think, that were deserving as well. It was hard last year to figure the playoffs out because of the shortened season and no non-con games and things like that. So I completely understand why Texas A&M fans were frustrated at the end of the year, getting left out of the college football playoff. But I think rational people can understand the reasoning the playoff committee used to keep them out. Nevertheless, Texas A&M fans are excited again heading into the 2021 season. They've got some questions, particularly at the quarterback position. They got to replace quarterback Kellen Mond, who it seemed like was there for 100 years. Jimbo Fisher's got a couple of young kids that he likes. They've got some talent around him. Defense needs to get a little bit better, but there's reason to be optimistic for Texas A&M in 2021. In today's video, we're going to look at their schedule in 2021 and see how they might end up. Yeah, good morning in that, though. But it's Uncle Lou here, though. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou. And guess what? I'm live for you on LouTube today. Yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, hey, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. Did you know I post college football videos almost every single day of the year? Fact. I do 7 live shows a week, too. I'll put the schedule up right now for the live. If you're not watching the live shows, you're missing out. We have a lot of fun over there. Anyway, uploading a video today. I've been doing a whole series of these schedule previews. I don't know how many I've done now, 20 maybe, and I'm going to do a couple of weeks more worth of these schedule previews. These aren't prediction videos. I do a series of prediction videos, but those come later in the off season. I might start those around the end of June, something like that, and run those all the way up through the start of the season. In these videos, we're just looking at the schedule. Typically, I like to compare next year's schedule to last year's schedule. Is it harder? Is it easier? What's the difference in the non-con games? Where are the road games at this year versus last year? It's kind of hard to do that this year for obvious reasons. The schedules last year were all over the place. The SEC didn't play any non-con games at all. They played 10 conference games instead of 8. Opponents were added to the schedule that weren't supposed to be on the schedule from within the SEC. You try to compare a schedule like that to this year, it's just kind of hard to do. Nevertheless, here is their 2020 schedule that we mentioned at the top there, and they did go 9-1. An impressive season for Texas A&M. The big win really coming in the regular season at home against Florida, one of the best games of the year. Texas A&M pulls that one out, and they needed that bad because they had got blown out the week before by Alabama. They come back, get a big win against Florida. That propelled them the rest of the way. They didn't lose another game after that Alabama game. They, like I mentioned, going on to the Capital One Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl, and beating a pretty good North Carolina team. They enter 2021 on an 8-game winning streak, one of the longest in the nation. They haven't lost since that Alabama game way back on the first Saturday in October of last season. So there you go. That's what their 2020 schedule looked like. Let's take a look now at the 2021 schedule and see what the road looks like for Texas A&M. Hey, if you got any sense, subscribe to this guy, D4 Sports. D4 is a friend of mine. He's been around YouTube for a long time, but he's really started working on his channel over the last couple of months, and this guy has put a lot of time, effort, and energy into some of the videos he's been making over there on his channel. He's a college football guy. I'll just go ahead and tell you he's a Texas Longhorns fan, but he doesn't make Texas videos. He makes all kinds of videos, and I really think you guys will enjoy him. A lot of top 5, top 10 type videos. Not ranking teams, but top 10 plays of this, top 10 of that, whatever. You get check it out. You get the idea. He's a good guy. He knows his stuff. One of the smartest people in the college football community on all of YouTube. Way smarter than I am, no question about it. Anyway, I've enjoyed his content over the last couple of months. I had a chance to meet him, too, a couple months back at the first annual YouTuber Slob Olympics in Atlanta, which was amazing. But anyway, I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description of this video, and if I can remember, I'll put it in the pinned comment of the comment section too. But I would consider it a favor to me if you guys would check his channel out, and if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe to D4 Sports. All right, there it is. Now, this is a pretty typical schedule for most SEC teams, basically. You've, of course, got 4 non-con games this year, and this is a common sort of scheduling tactic that you see within the SEC. They start things off with 3 non-con games, then they have a 4th non-con game later in the year in November. This is a sore subject for some butthurt Big Ten fans who seem to think that the only reason the SEC dominates them and all of college football is because they play a non-con game in November and because they only play 8 SEC games, whereas the Big Ten, we play 9 Big Ten games. Never mind the fact that Ohio State played, 5 regular season games last year and still got absolutely mollywopped by an Alabama team that played not 8, but 10 regular season SEC games. So a lot of the excuses going out the window. Plus, not sure if Ohio State fan is a potato or just unaware. But the goal of great programs and highly ranked teams is to win a national title, not to play 4 non-con games in the month of November. So instead of crying about Texas A&M scheduling Prairie View in the month of November, or any other SEC team scheduling a non-con game in the month of November, maybe the Big Ten and Ohio State should look into doing the same, because it appears to be working for the SEC. How many SEC titles, or how many national titles does the SEC have in the last 20 years compared to any other conference? It's not very close. You can continue to cry if you want to, or not. Either way, I really don't care. The SEC will continue to own you, Sucknut fan. What are you, 5-13 against the SEC? Pitiful. All time, too. So, just this year. No, all time, going back 100 years, 5-13. You can't beat the SEC. It's cold up here, Lou. You don't see the SEC coming here and playing in the cold. Stop playing the cold. I'd like to see the Sucknut man come down to Florida and play in the swamp the second week of September when it's 95 degrees with 100% humidity and an on-field temperature with the heat index of 115. I mean, what would you do if I told you, Ohio State can't win if it's 115 degrees? It just sounds ridiculous. The SEC beats you because they're better. Anyway, almost forgot what I was doing. This is a Texas A&M preview. So here you go. They kick things off in a non-con against Kent State. Then they go on the road for I guess this is a Power 5 non-con game at Colorado, one of the worst teams in the Power 5 generally over the last couple of decades or so. Maybe Tennessee man has something to say about that too. They're pitiful and pathetic as well. And then you host New Mexico. Not New Mexico State, just New Mexico. New Mexico Lobos, almost said New Mexico State. So you kick things off with 3 winnable non-con games. This isn't a prediction video. Again, I'll do those later in the offseason. Not really much of a reason you shouldn't be 3-0 there, though. You're better than all 3 of those teams, never mind the fact that you have questions at quarterback. It's not a talent question. It's just a we ain't never seen them do it question. That's all. That's it. So we'll see. By the time you get done playing these 3 non-con games, people will feel a lot better about your quarterback situation in terms of at least knowing what you have to offer. They're either going to know, okay, Jimbo Fisher's got him a quarterback. Maybe they can compete for the West, or this ain't working. Seriously doubt Texas A&M can challenge Alabama. We'll have a pretty good idea which side of the fence we fall on as college football fans after watching these first 3 games. You kick your SEC schedule off against Arkansas. Neutral site game for no reason at all, but it is. I hate neutral site games, and it seems like college football is trying to do more and more of them. instead of what they should be doing, which is less and less. I have this ridiculous idea that college football games should be played on college campuses. That's right, not at Jerry World or anywhere else, but nevertheless, Arkansas and Texas A&M, not in agreement with Uncle Lou here, decided for no reason to play a neutral site game in the middle of the season in a game that honestly nobody even cares about. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Oh, it's an old SWAC rivalry or whatever the hell, Southwest, whatever it was called back when no one was paying attention to these two teams, which not a whole lot of people are paying attention to them now, maybe a handful more. But anyway, congratulations, neutral site game. Arkansas an improved team last year, at least in terms of how they looked. The record wasn't great, but again, you're talking about a team in Arkansas that hadn't won an SEC game in a couple of years. Came out last year and surprised some people with the way they looked under first-year head coach Sam Pittman. You have to imagine with a normal regular season and another recruiting class under his belt, Sam Pittman and the Arkansas Razorbacks look to take another step forward in 2021. A big enough step to compete or beat Texas A&M? I don't know about that. Texas A&M will definitely be favored here. To me, this is no question there. Be 2-touchdown favorite at least, I would think. Then you get a home game here against Mississippi State. Bigfoot and Mike Leach. Of course, they started out with a huge win over LSU last year, which at the time was the defending national champions, and everybody made a big deal about it. Threw for 1,000 yards. Did they win another game after that, Mississippi State? One or two, maybe. Point is, that game turned out to be a fluke and an anomaly, at least in terms of Mississippi State being any good last year. They were terrible. One of the worst teams in the SEC. Mike Leach, another SEC West head coach who's in his second season, which means his first season really with a normal offseason, a chance to install the full playbook, go through a full spring, a full summer camp and fall workouts and things like that. We'll see how much better they can be in 2021. But again, at home for Texas A&M, a game you would think they would be favored in. And then you got the Alabama game. And really for Texas A&M, man, this year, it comes down to this game, I think, really. Whether the rest of the college football world agrees with that or not really doesn't matter. When you talk to a Texas A&M fan, this is the game they're looking at right here, the Alabama game. Again, it wasn't close last year, but that's not necessarily an indication that the game can't be close this year. Alabama blew out almost everybody they played last year, Texas A&M included. Alabama's also got to replace their quarterback from last year. Mac Jones gone off to the NFL. They've got Bryce Young. Less question marks, in my opinion, about Bryce Young than there are about the quarterback situation at Texas A&M. Doesn't mean the quarterback at Texas A&M won't be great. Again, that's not what I'm saying. It's just an unknown right now for most people in terms of what's going to happen at the quarterback situation for Texas A&M in terms of how good or bad will the quarterback be. To people that point at Kellen Mond last year and say, look, Jimbo knows what he's doing, I get that. But again, Kellen Mond was there for 4 or 5 years, and outside of last year, had a hard time putting together 2 good games in a row. I know Jimbo Fisher's a great coach. I know he's got success working on quarterbacks going back to his days at Florida State and Jameis Winston. We'll see what kind of magic he can work. But this is one of the games of the year in the SEC this year, probably the game of the year in the SEC West. Alabama on the road at Texas A&M. We'll see if the 12th man can make a difference. We'll see if all the students in the crowd playing dress up, pretending to be soldiers, thinking they're G.I. Joes with the whole cadet routine. Those people are not soldiers. That's not a military school. None of the students at that school are required to join the military afterwards. It's basically just a giant ROTC club, but more power to you. I don't understand the yell practice either. I've talked about this a bunch of times. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why, if you're a student at Texas A&M, you have to show up at the stadium midnight the day before a game to practice yelling. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I've been yelling for 10, 15, 20 years, 30, 40. I've been yelling for 43 years. Honestly, I've been yelling for 7 years here on YouTube. Never had to practice. I just turned the camera on, hit record, started yelling at Missouri. Now, this could be an interesting game because I think Missouri is a sleeper team in the SEC East. Clearly, Georgia's the favorite over there. You're just saying that because you're a Georgia fan. Everybody with a functioning brain knows that Georgia's the favorite in the East. Doesn't mean they'll win the East, but they're the odds-on favorite. Let's just be real. I think Missouri could finish second in the East, though. I know Florida still has some talent, but they're replacing pretty much their entire offensive production from last year. About 90% of their offense from last year is gone. South Carolina's got a new head coach. Tennessee's got a new head coach. Vanderbilt's got a new head coach, and Kentucky is Kentucky. Not to say that Kentucky can't beat Mizzou. Of course they can. Kentucky's a decent team under Mark Stoops. Point is, Missouri was better last year than people thought they would be. They've got a lot of parts and pieces coming back. Another team with a head coach heading into his second year, which means his first year with a full normal offseason. I wouldn't be surprised to see Missouri win some games that people don't think they're going to win. Maybe they beat a Florida. Maybe they beat a Texas A&M. I think this has the potential to be an interesting game. And in my mind, it's sort of a trap game. It's a dangerous game. It comes right after the Alabama game. Huge game, emotional game at home. The crowd's going to be going nuts. Win or lose, not easy to turn around the following week, get on a plane, fly to Missouri, and have to play what I think is a pretty good Missouri team. If you win, you have to worry about celebrating that win too long instead of focusing on Missouri. If you lose, you have to worry about the demoralization of the team. How beat up are they going to be after facing a physical Alabama team, things like that. This at Missouri game might be the trickiest game on this schedule for Texas A&M. It's definitely not the most difficult game, and that's not what I'm saying. But if you look at where this game falls and the fact that I think Missouri is going to be a pretty good team, top 25-ish team, in my opinion, I think this sets up to be a dangerous game for Texas A&M. Follow that up at home against South Carolina. You almost have to pencil that in as a win at this point. Texas A&M and South Carolina play each other every year. When you're in the SEC West, there's one team in the East that you play every single year. For Alabama, they play Tennessee every single year. For Auburn, they play Georgia every single year. For LSU, they play Florida every single year. And for Texas A&M, they play South Carolina every single year. South Carolina yet to beat Texas A&M since Texas A&M joined the SEC 10 years ago. South Carolina, not a lot of talent. Terrible last year. Terrible this year, in my opinion. Brand new coaching staff. Head coach that's never coached before in Shane Beamer. You'll be a favorite. And, I know this isn't a prediction video, but I'll go ahead and give you the dub there. South Carolina's just that bad. Then you get a bye week. Rest up for a game against Auburn. Another team with a brand new head coach this year. They do have a returning quarterback in Bo Nix going into his third year as the starter. I haven't been impressed by Bo Nix. I just haven't. Now, we can blame it on Gus Malzahn. We can blame it on he's a Georgia fan. That's why he's saying that. I rattle off a list of players all season long that impress me that don't play for Georgia. How many hours did I spend talking about players like Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin, Jerry Jeudy at Alabama, Kyle Trask at Florida, Joe Burrow at LSU? Every year there's 4 or 5 players around college, Saquon Barkley at Penn State. Every year there's 4 or 5 players that I just become infatuated with. Got nothing to do with Georgia. One of the players I have not been infatuated with, Blow Dix. I just don't think he's that good. Cry about it. I don't know what else to tell you. On the road at Ole Miss. To me, Ole Miss is the Missouri of the West. If you're looking for a team to pull some upsets this year, to maybe shake things up within the division, although probably not win the division, it's Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a dangerous team. We can say whatever we want about Lane Kiffin. He's nuts. His personality is weird. He's got a Twitter disorder. He's unfaithful. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He shoved his fist up Rocky Top's butthole. The point is, whatever you think about Lane Kiffin, the guy's an offensive genius. He gave Alabama all they could handle last year, running up and down the field in a track meet game for Alabama won in the end. They're going to be a dangerous team every single week. Every single week. They may end up 6-6. I don't know about that. I do know, and I'll tell you when I do the Ole Miss preview. But the point is, it's hard to go into that Ole Miss game 100% confident in a win. It just is, because if that offense under Lane Kiffin gets rolling, they can be a dangerous team. And you have to be able to have an offense that then keep up with that, right? You got to have an offense that can score 40-plus points if you plan on beating Ole Miss in most weeks. So, again, a dangerous game, but one that I think Texas A&M will probably be favored in, even though it's on the road at the Grove. And then you get that last non-con game that we talked about, the Big Ten man crying about nonstop, Prairie View A&M, before you close things up with your traditional last game of the year, this time on the road at LSU. An all-time classic 3 or 4 years ago when this one went to 4, 5, 6 overtimes, whatever it was. Yes, Kellen Mond was still there way back then, threw the game-winning touchdown pass in the 100th overtime. Kellen Mond not there now. LSU seems to have found the answer at quarterback late in the year. Last year, they got 2 big wins to end the year. We all know LSU had a terrible season last year. No one is surprised. By now you know that. They were 5-5 after going 15-0 the year before. Played 3 or 4 different quarterbacks. Lost a bunch of talent to the NFL off that 19 team, and then had 2 or 3 key players opt out for pandemic reasons. Wasn't a good year for LSU. But by the end of the year, they had put Max Johnson in at quarterback. Mark Richt's nephew, by the way. Which you can make of that what you will or what you won't. But it looks like they figured out the quarterback situation at the end of last year. We'll see if that's the direction they continue to go in 2021 in terms of playing Max Johnson. But they did get 2 big wins at the end of the year on the road at Florida and then against Ole Miss in their last game of the season. 2 games that before they were played, people gave LSU no chance to win either one. No one thought LSU was going to beat Florida. And until they beat Florida, no one gave them a chance against Ole Miss the following week. They ended up winning both those games, closed the season out at least on a positive note, but disappointing overall. This will be a good game. LSU, probably be a night game. We all know how tough it is to play there. Texas A&M, you know that better than anybody or as good as anyone else, having to play them every year and every other year at LSU. And more times than not, that game ends up being played at night, Thanksgiving weekend there on that one. And if you make it, the following week would be the SEC championship game. Clearly, the things that jump out about this schedule here are the relatively easy non-con schedule. 4 non-con games, all 4 winnable games. Really, A&M's probably going to win all 4 of those games by double digits. A couple of them, they'll win by 4 touchdowns. But even the Colorado game, I know they're technically a Power 5 team. You should win that game by 2 scores easily. Not much to worry about in the non-con. 4 almost guaranteed wins. Again, prediction videos coming later in the offseason. As far as your conference schedule goes, it really all revolves around that Alabama game. It really does. You'll be undefeated headed into that Alabama game unless something goes drastically wrong. I mean, I don't see you losing to Arkansas. I am impressed with Sam Pittman and what he's doing there, but something would have to go drastically wrong for you to lose that game. And the 3 non-con games to come before that, all very winnable. Probably 2 undefeated teams facing off there. You get them at home. All the eggs will be in that basket. The season probably hinges on that game right there. Trap games, I think the next week at Missouri is sort of a game that I could see going sideways for Texas A&M. A game that most people, you might just say, hey, what do you think about the Texas A&M Missouri game? Oh, Texas A&M will beat them. I agree in terms of if you look at it that way. But if you look at where the game falls on the schedule, I think it becomes a tricky game. Is Auburn going to end up being any better than what most people think they are? I don't know. I think at Ole Miss, also a very tricky game. Probably your second most difficult game on the road at Ole Miss late in the year. And then LSU, what version of them are we going to get? I think it's going to be, is it going to be as bad as 2020? No. Is it going to be as good as 2019? Hell, no. Sorry, Corn Dog Man. It's going to be somewhere in between. LSU is going to win 9 or 10 games. And whether they win 9 or 10 probably depends on what happens the last game of the year against this Texas A&M team. That'll be a good game. A lot of people will be watching that one. And there could be a lot on the line in that game, especially if you have beaten Alabama earlier in the year. See, if you beat Alabama, you can afford 1 loss and still win the West, right? If you beat Alabama, you could slip up the following week against Mizzou. You're still in the lead in the West. I mean, you got to win out, but you would still be in the lead at the time. If you are 11-0, with a win over Bama, you can lose to LSU and still win the West, unless LSU is also 11-0, which they won't be. That breaking news just came across my desk. Anyway, there you go. That's the Texas A&M schedule. Take a good look at it. Feel free to take a stab at the record in the comments down below if you want to. Let me know how you think the Aggies are going to do in 2021. I'll let you know if you're right or wrong here in a couple of months when I do the prediction videos. I do about 60 of those prediction videos too. Put the schedule back up again, and I give you a winner or a loss for every single game on the schedule. So I'll give you their overall record, and I'll let you know who they're going to beat and who they're going to lose to. That's a little later down the road, but if you want to take a guess at it now, be my guest in that. Anyway, I do appreciate all of you watching. I hope you're enjoying these series of preview schedule videos that I'm doing. Hit the thumbs up, share the videos. That really helps a lot, and have a good morning, too. Mama said they was magic glasses.